Most hated painting in
The painting
history.
you are about to see was so controversial in its
Shit
time
kind of look like Maroon
that
5.
when it was first displayed, more than 80 university professors signed a petition demanding that it be removed.
80.
But not because it was bad, but because it was far too provocative. Originally,
Really?
this painting was filled with naked bodies. You could see a pregnant woman, and among all these figures stood death itself. Everything was mixed together
You could
in
see a
kind
pregnant
of
woman.
dark
That was super
vision
provocative.
of life. Critics said it was immoral, a perversion, and at that time they even called it pornography. Unfortunately, the original painting was destroyed in 1945. It no longer exists, and all we have left is this black and white photograph that gives us an idea of how shocking this image must have been in person. Its name is Medicine, and it was painted by Gustav Klimt in 1901. However, the story of this
That
painting
shit kind of
actually
baller though.
begins
That
in
painting was sick. The way
1894.
you painted it?
That year, the Ministry of Education of the Austro-Hungarian
They got rid of it in
Empire decided that the
1894.
Grand Assembly Hall of the University
Fuck
of
off,
Vienna
bro.
needed a
It
decoration
was too provocative for
worthy of its
1894. Didn't they have like
prestige, and
prostitutes
they were
running
not
all up
looking
and
for
down that
just
shit,
any
dog?
decoration. They wanted a series of monumental paintings for the ceiling of the Aula Magna. The idea was to represent the great faculties of knowledge, philosophy, medicine, and
Their paintings are kinda
jurisprudence.
sick, bro.
Three serious, academic, and
No, but I'm
almost
saying like
sacred
late
concepts
1800s.
for a
Isn't that when Jack the
university
Ripper was
like
killing all the
this.
prostitutes?
The commission asked for classical allegories
I
with
never
heroic
understood
figures,
certain shielding
recognizable
to the public
symbols,
that,
and of course, a celebration
society
of
would do.
reason and scientific
Like, bro, these people
progress.
see this shit
A type
before.
of
Like,
art that
like
would
you still
reassure
can't
the
cuss on
rectors
TV.
of the
Like, come
time
on, bro.
and look
What
good in
child is
institutional
gonna
photographs for
be on the
posterity.
TV and be like,
For this
like,
task,
you know what I mean?
they
What are we
chose
talking
Gustav
about?
Klimt. At
It's
that
dumb,
moment,
stupid.
Klimt was a successful painter with academic training, already known for decorating theaters and official buildings. He seemed like the logical choice. But what they perhaps did not take into account was that Klimt was no longer the same artist he used to be. His
Damn.
art had changed drastically. By the time he began working on this commission, Klimt had become one of the leaders of the Vienna Secession, an artistic movement that sought to break away from the rules of traditional art. The artists in this group wanted to paint something freer, more expressive, and more symbolic. They were already tired of rigid figures with robes and books, and Klimt in particular was moving further away from decorative painting
That one
and
in the middle is
plunging into
beautiful.
themes that were psychological, sexual,
shit.
and existential. So of course, when the moment came to deliver the first work of the series, Philosophy, the reaction was uncomfortable. This painting was nothing like a glorious allegory of human thought. It was a mass of bodies
Why not,
floating
though?
in darkness, with a faceless head and death lurking behind them. There was no classical
beautiful.
wisdom in it, no Greek gods,
What do you mean?
just
It's
pure
like fucking
existential
people, like,
chaos. And that
you
was
know,
only
and
the
they're
beginning.
as
Two more
themselves,
paintings were
like
still
in
to
an
come.
entity,
Medicine
with
and
dead bodies
jurisprudence.
lurking in the background.
Medicine was the next painting to be delivered, and the criticism it received was even harsher than the one
I
before.
feel like that's just as
At the
provocative
top of
as the
this
other one.
painting, we see a column of naked human bodies, men, women, the elderly, babies, all floating as if carried by an invisible current. Their positions vary. Some appear still, others twisted, and others simply disoriented. These bodies are neither on Earth nor in the sky. They are suspended in a weightless space, literally in the middle of nowhere. Among
I
all
should
these
get painted,
bodies,
bro.
we can
I
distinguish
wouldn't do
a
no shit
human
like this, but
skeleton.
I think I'd have
Klimt
fun.
paints it as the personification of death, intertwined with the living. And right beside it, we see a pregnant woman standing with a pronounced belly, fully in gestation, a metaphor of new life and absolute death, literally side by side. Lower down, almost in the foreground, stands Hygeia, the Greek goddess of health. Klimt paints her as an imposing figure, looking straight ahead, holding a ritual cup with a serpent coiled around it, drinking from it. This is a classical symbol of medicine, the same one we still see today in the emblems of hospitals and pharmacies. But here comes the detail that bothered doctors the most. Hygeia has her back turned to the rest of the painting. The goddess does not look at the river of bodies behind her, nor does she attempt to help anyone. She is completely isolated, as if her presence were useless. Seeing this, the doctors wondered where the medical instruments were, the books, the white coats, any recognizable symbol that this painting celebrated the power of medicine. However, there is nothing. In this work, there isn't a single trace of medicine as a science. With this piece, Klimt did something very direct without having to explain it. He reminded the world that medicine cannot eliminate the deepest human suffering.
I was about to say that.
It cannot prevent us from aging, and it certainly cannot stop death.
I was going to say the trial leads to death.
When the painting was first shown, it was
you gotta
labeled
figure
as
out what works and what
pornographic.
doesn't.
At that time, displaying so many naked bodies, women in sensual poses, and especially including a pregnant woman, was something academic art simply did not accept. The doctors at the University of Vienna were furious. They said the work was an insult, a perversion. Some called it sick. Others claimed it was unnecessarily sexual. But deep down, what bothered them most was that this painting showed no achievement, no victory. It only showed that all of us, even them, are still vulnerable. The scandal was enormous.
Bro, is it not true?
There were petitions to censor it, letters, articles in newspapers, and the debate grew so intense that it ended up in the Austrian parliament. But despite all this controversy, the painting continued its journey. It was not installed at the university, but it did not disappear either. In fact, it found a new destination, one that, ironically, would later lead it to a tragic end, which we will discuss next.
Oh, it got painted over.
Before we go into that, let me remind you that if you would like to have a I can continue. After all the scandal and criticism, the University of Vienna ultimately decided that it did not want the painting. So Klimt did something unusual, something I honestly had never heard of before. He paid out of his own pocket to buy back this work and the other paintings from the commission.
He needed it back.
However, he did not modify them or tone them down. He simply took them with him. Over time, the painting passed into private hands. It ended up in the collection of the leader of family, one of Klimt's main patrons and one of the most important Jewish families in Vienna. There it remained for years, far from public controversy, but perfectly preserved. Until 1938, when Austria was annexed by Nazi Germany. The Nazis not only occupied the country, but also systematically looted Jewish art collections. The Lederer collection was confiscated, and with it, medicine, philosophy, jurisprudence, and several other works by Klimt. The Nazis transferred these paintings to a safe storage site at Schloss Immendorf, a remote castle where they kept the artworks they wanted to preserve for themselves. But the end came in 1945. As Soviet troops advanced into Austria, the SS received orders to ensure that nothing of value fell into enemy hands. Their solution was as simple as it was devastating.
Destroy it.
They decided to burn the castle. The fire destroyed everything.
That's lame as fuck.
Hundreds of artworks, including Klimt's free university paintings. What we have today is very little. Of medicine, only a single black and white photograph survived, taken years earlier, along with a few sketches Klimt kept during his lifetime. Thanks to these materials and modern digital reconstruction projects, there is now an approximate version generated with artificial intelligence, which is even displayed at the Belvedere Museum in Vienna. But the truth is that we will never really know what its colors, details, or textures looked like. So maybe it's worth asking this question. How dangerous can a painting really be for an entire country to reject it, censor it, and leave us today with nothing but technology to rebuild it? In 1901, they called it pornographic, but now we see it as a lost masterpiece that, ironically, ended up saying more about us, about our fears, our limitations, and our contradictions than many of the works that actually survived. I would love to read your thoughts about this painting in the comments. Thank you for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next
What is my thoughts? Should I give my thoughts on the painting? This is great.